The sun was just peeking over the mountain range surrounding the Brown compound. There was the soft chirping of the birds, the rustling of the dessert plants, and the quiet, peaceful atmosphere of the Brown compound, which consisted of several homes on a large piece of land. But there was a subtle buzz of tension that was being developed, that would erupt into pandemonium shortly behind the walls of his home. Kody was sitting at the kitchen table sipping his cup of coffee as he checked his emails, and the odd news alert on his phone. All appeared to be well on the surface as he attempted to brush away a nagging feeling. At the back of his head, something just didn't seem quite right. He pushed the thoughts to the back of his head as any self-respecting polygamist family man might. But little did he know, his morning was only just getting started. It began subtly. The rumble of tires in the distance, echoing down the gravel driveway. Kody looked up, assuming perhaps it was a delivery truck, a neighbor driving by. And then came the flash, bright, red, blue, streaked against the windows. His heart missed a beat. Police lights. Police lights? Kody's mind was racing. Was it an emergency situation? Had one of his wives called the police over something? Or maybe something illegal had gone down without him knowing about it? Nervousness got the better of him as he stood up from his chair, dripping coffee all over the table. No way. This can't be happening today, he said in an angered mutter. Meanwhile, outside, Janelle and Christine had already taken up their positions. Both had woken up early, not for their other typical daily tasks of chores or running errands, but with a strategy, one which would put Kody into a blind panic. The two had positioned their SUVs perfectly, parking them sufficiently to block all access to the main driveway, making it impossible for any vehicle, including the police, to come in or out. As a whole, everything on the outside was a recipe for catastrophe, lights flashing off SUVs, to ready-to-go women standing strong, with Kody running around looking like a man whose world had turned upside down. Kody rushed to the front door, flinging it open. "What the heck is going on here?" he yelled, his voice shaking with fear. He scanned the flashing lights, the obstructed driveway, and the serene-looking wives. Janelle was leaning against their SUV with an almost peaceful look on her face and smiled slightly. "Relax, Kody, it's under control," she said, this with an easy, confident tone that was almost teasing. She obviously enjoyed this controlled chaos. "Step back, Kody," she added from a few feet away with her arms crossed in a commanding gesture. There was also an air of playfulness in her voice, a hint of mischief in her voice that was both playful and strict. It was clear she was trying to assert her control over this situation. Kody's panic was increasing. He was wildly waving his hands. "You can't just block the driveway. What if they can't get through? What if—" But before his sentence could be completed, the blare of a car horn interrupted the moment. Then the flashing lights outside started once again. Neighbors began peering through their blinds, the whispers of the onlookers rising. "Do you think that's the police?" one of the onlookers asked in trepidation. "No, it's probably Janelle and Christine," another onlooker said with a giggle. "Those two are always up to something." Back at the compound, Kody was now pacing frantically, his mind racing with worst-case scenarios. He pictured police bursting into the compound, legal documents being served, and photo flashes capturing his embarrassment for all to see. Every what-if seemed scarier than the next. On the other hand, Janelle and Christine were completely in control. They had practiced this gesture. It may seem like no big deal to most people, but to the Brown siblings, it was an important gesture. Their father had always been the patriarch in their home, deciding for his wives. However, this morning showed that he would no longer have to make all the decisions. Sometimes, it's the simplest statements that have the most powerful meaning. Janelle whipped out her cell, texted Christine. "Keep them blocked. Let him sweat a little. He'll thank us later." Christine laughed and sent back a smiling face emoticon along with enjoying every second. Kody, unaware of the texting, continued to pace. He tried to reach his lawyer, called the police station in his paranoia, and then thought about hitting each of his wives up to find out what was going on. His heart was pounding in his chest, and he was on edge. To those watching, it was a reality show moment straight from a scene in a reality TV show, absolutely cinematic in its drama. But for Kody, it was a living nightmare. How could his wives pull off a stunt like this? And yet, when he looked out again, he saw that there were no police cars racing to the scene, no ambulances screeching, and just his two wives standing there, smiling ever so slightly as if to say, "Don't worry, we've got everything under control." Kody attempted to compose himself inside, mumbling, "Ridiculous. This is absolute nonsense." He ran his hands through his hair, checked his clock, and wondered how long this torture was going to continue. The women, as always, had timed this perfectly. Each passing second without a visit from the police increased Kody's agitation, but at the same time presented him with an unpleasant truth he did not want to see. He was no longer holding the reins. At least not for the time being. Janelle took a slight step forward, looking calm but assertive. Kody, breathe. Nobody is going to come in there to arrest you. It is simply a lesson in patience, and perhaps a little reminder that we have a role in this process as well. Christine continued with a touch of playfulness. We have to be the ones who are in charge at times. Kody stood frozen, taking in their words. Panic in his eyes gave way to disbelief, but also, very slowly, to a grudging understanding. He saw that the wives are not trying to wound him but are asserting their presence in a home that had long since been ruled by him. It was a small thing but a profound gesture. Outside, the whispers were happening among the neighbors, some of whom were even taking videos. The social media notifications were popping up all over town, as the owners of social media accounts began speculating. Sister Wives drama. Is Kody in trouble again? Was that a police prank call with Janelle and Christine? Kody was now standing in the driveway. He finally breathed a sigh of relief. His chest was still heaving with tension, but finally, a minute part of him realized that this was rather funny. The wives had planned the perfect combination of drama and control, and Kody had taken the hook. Janelle and Christine exchanged a knowing look, their mission accomplished. They had managed to cause chaos without any real emergency, teaching this lesson with style, patience, and just a touch of playfulness. And in that moment, one thing was certain: the Brown family never had a dull day. And Kody Brown had been dealt a loud and noisy lesson in the most obvious way possible. That he wasn't running the ship alone. When the morning sun fully rose over the compound, the driveway was still blocked, and the nearby neighborhood was abuzz. All Kody was left with was this single inescapable truth. Never underestimate the might of Janelle and Christine. The mayhem outside appeared to be fuel for the tempest brewing within Kody Brown, despite the driveway being blocked and the emergency lights reflecting in every window. He couldn't shake the feeling that something bad, something catastrophic, was on the verge of occurring. His thoughts were a maelstrom of disasters waiting to happen. Police raids, court warrants, media storms. His list went on, his slippers slapping the floor with each step. The patriarch of the Brown family paced his living room with hands wrung in agitation, and slippers with rumpled pajamas and hair mashed every which way. This normally calm patriarch of the Brown family now looked like a horror movie hero, whose villains are his own wives. Did someone call the cops? He yelled out into his empty house, his voice hoarse with emotion. Was there some kind of complaint? Is this somehow related to the kids? Or the taxes? He dashed into his home office and flung open a bunch of his desk drawers, as if some answers lay within. Of course, they didn't. However, Janelle and Christine had other plans altogether. They were on a different wavelength altogether. They were not panicking. They were calculating. They had expected Kody's response to be just that. They had expected him to get defensive and not think before acting. And so blocking the driveway had become an assertion of their control over this household. As this was no longer a household ruled by one man, Christine was leaning against her SUV, casually scrolling through her cell phone, while Janelle was making caffeine, doing it all with such nonchalance, as if nothing was even remotely unusual. It was going perfectly. Each passing horn blast or catch piece of flashing lights further twisted Kody's imagination. Kody went inside and grabbed his phone. He began dialing all the people he could think of. He called the police department, the sheriff's department, and even some of his family members. Every time, he only ended up more confused. Nothing made any sense, and this just made everything worse. I don't believe this. I don't believe this. He kept repeating, pacing back and forth like a man in a zoo. His heart racing, his forehead dotted with sweat. He imagined the scene spiraling out of control. Helicopters, media crews rolling, headlines screaming in cyberspace. His imagination ran so vividly with the scene that he began to feel, even Kody, as if it might actually happen. In the yard, Janelle and Christine exchanged an awkward smile. Look at him, Janelle whispered, motioning towards the frazzled Kody walking back and forth in the windows. He's losing it. And honestly, it's kind of entertaining, Christine smirked. This is a great reminder that he doesn't control all aspects of our lives. We have choices too, you know. Their playful jabs at each other may have been lighthearted, but the implications are daunting. The family dynamic was changing over the years. Once he was the final authority in every decision, the patriarch to be reckoned within the family. But now, the wives are gaining confidence in their roles. There is no better way to bring this fact to his attention than with a carefully orchestrated panic. Kody's nerves were stretched to the limit. He visualized the approaching cops, the lights shining on the cars, and the cameras lined up in the driveway. Yes, he could see it all, the family's business in the courtroom for all to see. All the worst-case scenarios ran through his mind, but he attempted to encourage himself, mumbling, All right. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just a misunderstanding, but this calm was fleeting. A horn horned in the distance and Kody leapt, his heart pounding. Every second was torture, a challenge to his patient and sanity. Janelle, realizing he was getting agitated, decided to turn up the pressure ever so slightly. So she went out and told Kody, "It's all right, Kody, just take a breath, relax." Kody's eyes are wide with panic. Take a breath, relax? There are cop cars outside, not to mention the driveway is blocked. How am I supposed to relax? However, Christine chimed in, a smile playing at her lips. No one's here to arrest you, Kody, it's merely a wee bit of patience in the morning. Kody's hands flew up to his head. Exercise in the morning, patience? What he was hearing just did not compute. Kody was scared to death, but on some level he knew he was not really in danger. That just didn't keep his heart from pounding, his hands from shaking, his world from spinning on its side. In an effort at damage control, Kody called the neighbors, hoping that they could bear out the police's arrival. Is anyone else seeing this? Are the cops really here? However, all Kody received in return was puzzled responses and nervous laughter. The neighbors were not seeing any police. All they could see were the wives standing confidently by their cars. His imagination took it a step further. Kody soon was conjuring images of law enforcement interactions. Officious officers interrogating him about supposed grievances, legal papers requiring urgent attention, and cameras recording his every response. It had all the makings of a television drama, but Kody was terrified. However, Janelle and Christine had already developed a calm rhythm, as if the turmoil of the morning merely needed a cup of coffee and a conversation. They rested against their respective SUVs, peering through the windows at Kody's frenzied actions, and exchanged their knowing smiles. The girls' plan wasn't about being mean. Rather, it was about empowerment. They wanted Kody to realize that he did not have to be in control of everything for Kody. It was a process of coming to terms. His was a case of panic that was visceral, instinctual. He was torn both by a desire to handle the situation and by an increasing recognition that this was simply impossible. With every step to handle this crisis, he looked increasingly frantic and out of control. Social media circles buzzed with theories as clips of the scene were shared among the community. Sister Wives drama. Read one post, while another posted, "Kody's losing it." It didn't take long for viewers of the popular series to recognize the distinct chaos that comes with the Brown family, a combination of personality, power, and unpredictability that comes into play. Kody was now pacing in circles, muttering to himself repeatedly, "This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. How did it come to this?" Each horn blow of a car, each glint of sunlight on the SUVs, seemed to heighten his panic. His usual composure had given way to a nervous, near-comic anxiety. The wives, sensing his agitated state, leaned in a bit harder on their roles. Janelle held up a placating hand. "Kody, it's all right. No one is coming to get you. You have nothing to fear. Just breathe, see? Nothing bad is happening. You only need to let go a little. It's all right to not be in control every moment," added Christine, standing next to her. Kody froze in his tracks, taking a deep breath as he struggled to calm his racing heart. He slowly came to an understanding that he wasn't dealing with for separate antagonists. He was dealing with for women who were partners with him in this house and who were making their voices heard in ways he wasn't accustomed to. But the longer the morning wore on, Kody began to experience a cross between panic and the beginnings of amusement. The ridiculousness of the situation, driveway blocked, flashing lights, whispers among the neighbors, and his own level of freak show proportions was beginning to filter into his awareness. He could no longer escape the truth. The wives had accomplished their goal, and yet it terrified him. Kody's anxiety had escalated to an extreme degree, yes, but it had also led him to face an unpleasant truth. He no longer had absolute control over his family. The women had the kind of power, agency, and ability to take control that challenged his own. It wasn't an April Fool's joke, it was an awakening. Late morning brought a reprieve from the frenzy. Kody leaned against the counter. Rubbing his temples, he murmured to himself, all right, got it. I don't need to be in charge of everything. I mean, wow. Just wow." Janelle and Christine, now with him in the house, exchanged happy smiles. The message was delivered, control was shared, and sometimes loosening it may produce experiences as hilarious as they were eye-opening. These events would sink into the annals of fame with the Sister Wives fan community as the ultimate mashup of panic, humor, and politics of power. Kody's manic pixie organizer energy, paired with his wife's calm and collected demeanor, embodied the lifestyle that exists within these sprawling families, unpredictable, dramatic, and endlessly engaging. And so, after Kody finally slid into a chair, Taking a deeper breath, he finally saw the importance of not just his own panic but the fact that, in a family filled with strong, independent women, sometimes the best thing to do is to just let go. By mid-morning, however, the serenity that filled the Brown compound was nothing but a distant memory. The earlier commotion, the blocked driveway, the flashing lights, Kody Brown pacing frantically back and forth had already started to have its effect, churning up waves in the community that were racing with possibilities. As far as the outside world was concerned, this was one heck of an action sequence. Janelle and Christine were standing proudly alongside their SUVs, perfectly obstructing the driveway, whereas Kody was running around like a man trying to get control of a situation that was spiraling out of his control. The neighbors, peeping out of their windows, had started to get alarmed. "You see that?" Another neighbor asked, nodding her head toward the Brown compound. "Is that Abe the police? Or is that Kody losing it again?" "No, I think it's Janelle and Christine," said a neighbor. "You know how they love to make a scene." The rumor mills were working at full capacity on all of their favorite networking sites, as well as at their local grocery store. The tweets began to roll, and shortly after, bear witness to Sister Wives drama. Kody Brown is going full-on panic mode. Driveway is blocked and neighbors are confused. What is going on here? Among fans of this reality TV series, there was instant recognition of this identifiable dynamic, high drama, tension, and unpredictability. In the compound, Kody was in a state of utter panic. He peered through the blinds, wincing in an effort to look at the two wives standing frozen by their SUVs. He noticed every detail: Janelle's tilted head, the crossed arms of Christine, the glint of sunlight dancing off the sleek autos, all blooming in his deranged mind to make an ordinary morning an even more miserable one. He tried to tell himself it made sense. Maybe it's a practical joke. Or maybe they're protecting the house. Or his mind was spiraling into further possibilities with each word. Or in his head were police officers just around the bend, ready to accost him for some infraction or other perceived emergency. Meanwhile, Janelle and Christine were perfectly collected. They had counted on this level of disorder, and knew Kody's imagination would do half the work for them. They were certainly not attempting to mortify Kody, but were making a statement about independence and equality within the family. Chrissy adjusted sunglasses, smirking as Kody paced back and forth. "Just watch him," Chrissy whispered to Janelle. "He's like a cat on a hot tin roof."
Janelle smiled lightly. "He needs to realize that he doesn't get to call all the shots. We are also a part of this family, and we do occasional driving." The irony in the situation was delicious. Kody, the head of the family, is now left as a nervous bundle of nerves, reacting to a situation dictated by his wives. This is a reversal of roles, and one that not only exhibits some humor in polygamous families, but also some tension. On the other side of the compound walls, the neighborhood was buzzing with theories. Kids hid behind their curtains to take a peek, while adolescents recorded videos of each other as they huddled in cliques, speculating. Some more adventurous onlookers even approached the compound to take in the view. Even local channels heard about the hubbub. Before long, web pages full of articles appeared. Sister Wives, Kody Brown panics as wives take control. Driveway blocked, family drama unfolds, and the Browns in trouble. Each article served to heighten curiosity, encouraging more people to view. In fact, on the inside, Kody's anxiety was reaching its climax. He was calling his friends and family members repeatedly, hoping to reach someone who could tell him if this was really a real emergency. "Is everyone else seeing this?" he asked, his voice racked with panic. "Is this normal? Am I losing my mind?" But none of them had a clue. The wives remained calm as can be, everything under their control. The wives had laid down not only the foundation for Kody's panic, but also a larger teaching about humility and perspective. This was more than just about a blocked driveway. It was about teaching Kody that a family that contained more than one woman who was stubborn needed teamwork, give and take, and at times letting go. Janelle moved a step or two towards the SUV, watching Kody from behind the glass. "Take a deep breath, Kody," she encouraged. "Nothing bad is happening. You're safe." "Yes, seriously. No police, no raid, no disaster. Just us. And perhaps a little reminder that you don't have to control everything," Christine continued. Kody stood frozen in shock as he tried to absorb what he'd just been told. "The irony isn't lost on me," Kody said with a laugh. "I've conjured up every possible worst-case scenario in my mind, and not one of them is true." Yet the panic had been real. The day slowly unfolded, and the murmur in the neighborhood increased. Speculation ran rampantly. What are the wives doing this for? Is Kody in trouble? Did they have an argument? Each theory fed the fire in the drama. Facebook pages centered on Sister Wives posted clips and screenshots immediately, which led to thousands of comments. Sister Wives viewers enjoyed the drama and mystery of an average family mourning. But Kody's fear-mongering was not mere acting either. He was genuinely terrified of being suffocated by perceived dangers and real household politics. He paced back and forth, mumbled to himself, and was even waving his arms in frustration whenever he glanced out the window. Everything he saw only validated his fearfulness, although logically speaking, he had nothing to fear. The women, aware of his agitated state, realized it was time to add to the psychological lesson. Janelle inched closer to the driveway, unconsciously adjusting the SUV to make sure that there were no gaps in the blockade. Christine remained steadfast, arms crossed, exuding calmness and confidence. Their message was loud and clear. Control is not absolute, and Kody had to learn to live with that. Kody, realizing the situation wasn't going as he had planned, changed his strategy as the morning progressed. He tried to negotiate with his wives. "Okay, can't we unblock the driveway at least for a little bit?" he begged. "Not yet. Patience, Kody. You'll survive," Janelle said, shaking. Christine smirked. "This is good for you. Trust me." In that instant, Kody had an epiphany about something very important. His anxiety, his desperate need to control the situation, and his fear of the imagined police raid were all manifestations of a problem that was much deeper than just that situation. He knew that he was no longer the only one in charge. The women had power, independence, and the ability to shape the household in ways that he had not realized before. The rumors swirling in the neighborhood, the speculation on social media, and Kody's ever-escalating level of panic all came together into a perfect storm. It was a humbling experience for Kody, a moment of empowerment for Janelle and Christine, and pay dirt for the world watching on. As Kody approached noon, he stopped to lean on the wall, gasping for breath. He looked outside to see what he had been seeing all morning. Wives confidently positioned near SUVs, neighbors with curious expressions, and a driveway that remained neatly blocked. There was no raid, no crisis, just a perfectly staged moment of controlled pandemonium. Janelle stepped closer and touched her hand to his shoulder. "See, it has nothing to do with panicking or with being in control. It has to do with trust and patiently taking turns leading and following. That is family. And maybe sometimes we just like being in the moment. You panicked, yeah, but you're still here. And maybe a little bit wiser for it too," added Christine, smiling warmly. Kody let out a long breath. The tension in his muscles eased. He understood that what the wives did was not against him, but a lesson. The morning event had been dramatic, but the lessons on cooperation, respect, and joint rule that applied to a family like the Browns had held strong. By the afternoon, rumors that had spread throughout the neighborhood had died down. Social media posts were still circulating, but the initial shock had transformed into commentary, analysis, and jokes. Viewers were weighing in about what was happening, speculating about family dynamics, and fascinated that a blocked driveway was creating so much turmoil. Kody, finally taking a seat with a cup of tea in hand, assessed the events of the morning. There had been testing, panic, humility, but there was also a lesson, a valuable one, in a household of strong, independent women, where control was not a fixed commodity, but rather where sometimes the best moments could be found in relinquishing it. And as Janelle and Christine shared a triumphant look, they both knew the message was made to order. Kody's panic was at an all-time high. The whole neighborhood was enthralled, and the drama was playing out just as planned. But by mid-afternoon, the Brown family compound had transformed into a reality TV show episode. The driveway was still blocked. The neighbors were still whispering amongst themselves, speculating on everything, and Kody Brown was at the height of his panic. What had started out as a scene of complete madness had escalated into a confrontation that could no longer be ignored. Kody, still wearing his pajamas, came storming outside for what felt like the 1,000th time that morning, waving his arms wildly as he yelled, "This is utterly ridiculous. You two can't just stand there blocking our driveway." His voice rang out across the complex, echoing off the walls and the two SUVs. "I mean, what are you thinking?" Janelle was calm and collected as she stepped forward, her expression so peaceful, as if she had simply been waiting for this moment to arrive. Her words were soft and authoritative at the same time, and she could slice right through Kody's manic energy with ease. "We did, and we can. And now just calm down." Kody. Christine, ever the drama queen, chimes in with a sly grin. "See? No cops, no raid, just us, hanging out. Perhaps a lesson in humility, though." Kody froze, trying to make sense of what was taking place. His mind was racing with this was ridiculous. The driveway blocked, the neighbors peering out of windows, the flashes reflecting off the SUVs, and not one shred of actual danger. Just Janelle and Christine, standing so confidently, as if nothing in the world was going to shake them. He stepped back, scratching his head in a gesture of utter disbelief. You did all of this, just to make me panic?" Janelle nodded slightly, a small smile playing at the corner of her mouth. "Not to alarm you, Kody. Just a reminder that not everything in life has anything to do with your controlling ways. There are just things that happen beyond your control, and that's perfectly fine." Christine continued, "And maybe also to show that we can also assert ourselves. Be a part of decision-making, without necessarily having to be in charge of all the details." Still in shock, Kody realized that the tone of the situation had shifted from one of panic to one of comedy. The ridiculous nature of everything that was going on, frantic pacing, policing crackdowns, and neighborly whispers behind curtains, was almost humorous. Rubbing his temples, he muttered, all right, I understand, but this is crazy." Janelle chuckled softly, moving closer. "It's not crazy, Kody. It's reality. And sometimes reality teaches you more than any lecture ever has. Plus, admit it, this is kind of fun." Christine smirked, leaning on the side of the SUV. Kody's laugh was tremulous as he released the tension in his body. "Fun? I wouldn't go that far. It's more terrifying." The wives looked at each other knowingly. It had all worked perfectly. Kody had been forced to examine his own tendencies toward control, to examine the unpredictability of the family, but more importantly, he had been forced to acknowledge the independence of his wives. Passing by the seconds, the confrontation slowly transitioned from seriousness towards becoming comedic. "Oh, can we unblockade the driveway just for a little bit? Maybe 5 minutes?" Kody tried negotiating. The absurdity of his moves was increasing by seconds. Janelle just chuckled and clicked her tongue. "Not yet. You need to be more patient. Trust me, it will be very good for you." "Yes, and remember, patience builds character," added Christine. Kody threw up his hands in exasperation. "I don't need character. I need sanity," he muttered. The absurdity of this exchange did not go unnoticed in the neighborhood, and soon neighbors began to approach the property. Cell phones were out, recording this moment in time, as one saw the whispers and stifled laughter begin. Footage would soon appear on social networking sites, illustrating Kody's desperation, the wives' calm resolve, and the visibly present comic element. Meanwhile, a lot was happening inside. Janelle yelled from beside her SUV. "Kody, try to get our perspective. We all have thoughts, opinions, and yes, sometimes the driveway is blocked for a point to be made. So, it's like playing chess. You think you've done something, but we counter. Today, we control the game," added Christine. Kody paused, blinking at the two women. The analogy was not lost on him. This was not simply a prank, but a strategic move, a playful yet powerful way to assert one's influence in a home that has traditionally been under his domination. A tension between comedy and terror peaked with the increasing sun in the afternoon. Kody, who had earlier been so frightening with all that frenetic energy, was now resorting to comedic gestures. He was dashing here and there in the house, checking the driveway, looking out the windows, and gesturing to himself. Janelle and Christine were frozen in their positions, completely composed and enjoying every bit of this comedy show. Now their neighbors were also all in on the action, looking out from behind their fences, whispering to each other, a few even taking videos for their Facebook pages. The tale of the blocked driveway and Kody's panic was spreading rapidly online among the show's viewers. Even in Kody's measures to regain control, there was a touch of humor. Kody pushed to bargain, plead, and even issue mock threats to call the lawyers, but the reactions he got from Janelle and Christine remained calm. "You could consider calling lawyers," Janelle said with a faint smile, "but nothing they can say will alter the fact that now and then you have to let go." "Exactly, and who knows, maybe they'll think this is entertaining too," added Christine with a soft laugh. Kody was frustrated, but this easily grew into a begrudging amusement. He knew that although this situation was intended as something that would instill fear, it also revealed an underlying truth. He was no longer the only decision-maker. The women had freedom, autonomy, and power that could not be underestimated. The altercation, as a result, intensified, revealing that what took place here was not merely a prank or a lesson, but the turning point for the Brown family. Kody's panic had reached its peak. The strategy employed by the wives had worked, and the family, as well as the audience, were caught up in the entire power struggle that was taking place. All right. Kody flopped into a nearby chair, exhausted from all his pacing and gesturing. Okay, fine, you win. Got it. I don't have to control everything." Janelle moved closer. "Exactly. Sometimes the best lesson you can learn is to let go of control. And admit it, this was kind of fun for you too, in a weird, stressful kind of way," Christine was quick to point out, ever the tease. Kody took a deep breath. A nervous, but nevertheless real laughter bubbled up in him. Indeed, he understood that everything that had happened in the morning had been frightening, as well as enlightening, and also ridiculous and instructive. The wives managed everything in the best possible way, making him realize his own helplessness, as well as understanding once again the importance of trust. By late afternoon, the driveway remained blocked. The neighbors were still observing from a distance. Kody had accepted reality, and the intensity of the fight had peaked. This had all mixed together to create a moment that would be remembered by Sister Wives enthusiasts for years to come. Janelle and Christine, pleased with what they had accomplished, shared an understanding look, their faces reflecting triumph and amusement. Kody, on the other hand, had learned an important thing. Sometimes, to fully appreciate the concept of balance in the household, one has to endure an experience of ultimate, controlled chaos. As the sun began to set towards the horizon, the laughter, tension, and drama began to slowly transition to reflection. Kody had made it through the conflict. The wives had made their mark. and the world had been treated to a scene that showcased the lifestyle that best summed up the reality of having an unusual large family, unpredictable, dramatic, and interesting. With the late afternoon sun thus casting long shadows across the sprawling Brown family compound, a semblance of calm began to descend over the bedlam that had filled the better part of the afternoon. The driveway was still obstructed by the two SUVs of Janelle and Christine. But the flashing lights, the agitated pacing, and Kody Brown's frantic tantrums had all gradually faded into a semblance of introspection. A situation fraught with numerous lessons in family, control, and the ever-unpredictable nature of a family size as large as the Browns. This could be it. This could be it for us, he kept repeating in his mind as he slumped into an armchair in the living room, his face still flushed from his ordeal, his hands massaging his temples as he tried to calm his racing thoughts. He had been in a state of constant panic and fear for hours. The police raid, legal blowbacks, and worst-case scenarios that never came to pass. But as he sat in the waning light of day in his home, he began to recognize a truth he couldn't quite see. This chaos wasn't about fear. It's about control and perspective. Janelle quietly entered the room, smiling warmly but firmly, with a cup of tea for Kody. She placed it side by side with him and sat down, looking him right in the eye. "Kody, this morning started off pretty overwhelming, right?" she said softly. "And yes, obviously, we blocked the driveway. But that wasn't meant to intimidate or scare you for the heck of it. It's a realization that sometimes things happen that you have no control over, and that's perfectly okay." Kody let out a deep sigh, leaning his chair back. I know. I panicked. My mind was racing to worst-case scenarios. I couldn't think of what was next. The cops, the neighbors, the press. It seemed like everything was losing control. Janelle nodded knowingly. "And that's exactly what we had planned. You have to confront your fears, no matter which one it may be in your head. You needed to see that not everything is as it should be around here, and letting go is sometimes the only way to be peaceful." Christine joined in with them, her mischievousness melting away and becoming heartfelt. "Kody, it's not about removing power from you. We're not here to fight with you. We were just hoping to show that we can make our own moves, that in our own household, our voices will be heard. Yeah, it's probably kind of enjoyable to see you freaking out, just a little. Don't deny it." Kody laughed quietly, a touch embarrassed, but relieved as well. "Okay, yeah, a little bit, but it was scary too." The two wives shared a knowing glint with each other. What worked beautifully in their plan was the fact that Kody had a first-hand experience of what it meant to lose control, and in a manner completely harmless. As the day turned from afternoon to evening, the Brown family began to look back on the day in a kind of collective reflection. Kody realized that the fear he'd felt was not simply a result of the blocked driveway and the threatened police raid, but a recognition that the dynamic of the family was, in fact, changing. Over the years, Kody had simply been the patriarch of the family, the man whose choices and moves went undisputed. But a new reality was slowly emerging, and that was that the other wives, particularly Janelle and Christine, and all of the wives, for that matter, are strong, independent women who can, and in fact, will, assert themselves. Janelle's voice was almost philosophical. "You see, Kody, living in a situation like the one we are in is different. It's not about one person having complete control over everyone else. It's about working together and sometimes taking a backseat to others." Today was just a small example of that. Christine continued, "But maybe a little bit of fun in between wouldn't be so bad. Reality television moments aside, we wanted you to have a reality check, to understand that you too can handle chaos without losing your cool. that all of you are a part of this family unit. I knew then that I had a family I could always depend upon and that these were individuals I should be proud of. I felt a sense of... Kody nodded as he processed their words. He realized that the panic he had experienced, the frightened calls to the lawyers, the problems he thought he could be arrested for, as well as the mortification in front of the neighbors, all served as a lesson in humility. He realized that he had been reminded of his limitations as well as the autonomy possessed by his wives, something he hadn't been aware of in a long time. Outside, the situation in the neighborhood calmed down, and the storm on social media began to die out. Videos of Kody's panicked face, Janelle and Christine's astonished expressions, and the blocked driveway continued to spread, prompting comments and jokes on the part of fans of Sister Wives. Some fans found themselves praising the cunning and boldness of Kody's wives, while others found themselves identified. Outside, the situation in the neighborhood calmed down, and the storm on social media began to die out. Videos of Kody's panicked face, Janelle and Christine's astonished expressions, and the blocked driveway continued to spread, prompting. And then, inside the house, Kody took a deep breath and thought about what was going on this morning. And he realized, this isn't about control. This is about trust. Trust in his wives. Trust in the family unit. Trust in his own ability to trust everything to just roll out without having to get all panicky. Janelle, Christine, Kody continued quietly, I think I finally get it. It had nothing to do with the prank. It had to do with teaching me patience, perspective, and, well, maybe humility. You both showed me that I could let go of needing to control everything. Janelle smiled warmly at him, reaching to place her hand on his. Yes, Kody, that's right. We weren't trying to diminish your place in our relationship, in your patriarchal role in our family. We wanted you to realize that we are all equal, that in our situation, balance is necessary. And maybe we had a little fun while teaching the lesson too. Admit it, it was a little entertaining to see you in full panic mode, said Christine in agreement. Kody chuckled nervously, shaking his head. Yes, it was, but also terrifying. The women laughed softly among themselves, and for the first time since the beginning of the morning, a feeling of calmness settled over the compound. The jammed driveway, the panic, the pretend police raid, each event had done its job. Kody had learned the reality of joint rule. The women had successfully proved that times of panic could be navigated with grace and comedy. As the sun began lowering in the horizon, illuminating the entire compound with gold, Kody took some time to think about what today meant for his family. It wasn't just one lesson. It was insight into what could be expected in the changing landscape of his family. The moves by his wives today reinforced in him that having independence, and confidence in whom they are and what they do is key in having a well-functioning family. Later, during dinner time, when the family had gathered, Kody felt relief coupled with admiration. He looked around at Janelle, Christine, and the rest of the family, realizing that their morning plan had not only been successful, but also very empowering. Chaos had suddenly transformed to an episode of clarity, humor, and togetherness. Janelle, putting water into glasses, stated, "See? Life doesn't always go the way you plan. And sometimes the best experiences you have come from unexpected challenges." Christine nodded, smiling at Kody. "Right. And sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself too, during the journey." Kody couldn't help but smile, having developed an admiration for the humor and insight in their method. The previous morning's frenetic activity. Yes, but it had been so much more than that. He knew that the Brown household, with all its volatility, was truly an environment in which growth, education, and experience were possible. However, by evening, tranquility was restored to the self-contained community. The driveway was nothing but a reminder of the morning's events, while the community had resumed their daily lives. Indeed, topics on social platforms had not yet tired of relishing the latest drama between the Sister Wives family. Kody, on the other hand, had attained something even more valuable than that. He now understood balance and patience in his own family. In a final moment of retrospection, Kody turned his gaze to Janelle and Christine, a soft smile on his face. "You know," he said, "this morning has been quite the awakening. Chaos, yes, but also educational. I definitely learned a lot today. Thank you for teaching me in your own special way." Janelle smiled warmly. "That's what family is for, Kody. We support each other, we teach each other, and yes, we possibly prank each other a little bit, okay?" Christine laughed softly. "Exactly. And maybe next time, we'll think of an even bigger challenge for you." Kody groaned good-naturedly, but he had a twinkle in his eye, a combination of frustration laced with enjoyment. It had been an emotionally roller coaster of a day, but it had culminated with laughter, understanding, and a sense of togetherness within the walls of the Brown clan. And so, as the sun finally hid behind the mountains and the desert sky turned a gentle orange, it became clear what the lesson of this day might be. Control is temporary, panic is optional, and the ability to patiently humor and share power can turn chaos into clarity. Kody Brown to this day looks back on the blocked driveway as a teachable moment, a story of family and the strength and instincts of Janelle and Christine.